And so to address, and one other thing with the Ahuto oven was that combustion was also not efficient. So with the Ahuto oven, they introduced the fat collector. And so under the tree, they have a fat collector where the oil, the water from the fish drip gets onto the fat collector. And they have an entrance, a fat collector exit, where the fats collected on the tray get out. So there's an exit for the fats and the blood that is being collected. And then they also have two compartments. The first compartment is a original compartment that's similar to this, where the wood is placed. But in addition, they have designed those in a such a way that it allows additional extra oxygen into the oven. So when the oxygen gets into the oven, the heated oxygen mixes up with us, the oxygen here, the cold oxygen, then it moves up, it's pressed under the tray, and it cooks the fish. So that's the added technology that was introduced into the Ahuto oven. And for that reason, the Ahuto oven has the capacity to reduce the amount of smoke that is being generated. Before we embark on this research, I think we went to visit communities that this technology was being used. And in some of the smoke houses, the smoke was so high, a lot of smoke was being produced. And then our interaction with the people, SMV, they suggested, apart from these mechanisms, you always have to maintain the technology. If you fail to maintain, especially the exits, it gets choked. And eventually, because the tray is hot, it heats up the fat in the oil, and it also generates smoke. So apart from the mechanism itself, there's a regular continuous maintenance of the system. So in this study, the study was carried out in the Volta and in the central region, 6 communities in the central region, and 6 communities in the Volta region. We have 3 arms. One arm, the goal of this project is to test a set of interventions to reduce anemia in women of reproductive age. And so we have the first intervention, seeks to introduce the women to best practices to prevent infection, because infection is one of the critical things that contribute to anemia. So we had an arm that also introduced them to best practices to reduce anemia, infection among the women. The other session was to provide them with training. Training on how to use Ahuto oven, training on how to, on marketing skills and how to sell their products. And thus feeds into this one. Thus, we gave them microcredits. The intention was that if you give them some incentives for them to put into their business, they can get profit and invest the profit, and they can eat food that can reduce anemia prevalence in the community. So we also provide them with entrepreneurship training. We also had another NGO, and what the NGO does is to assess market prices of fish. And so, for example, for each market in the country, we know the price. We get prices of, for example, if all the different types of fish. Then through the mobile phone, we text on weekly basis. We provide the women with the prices of fish, so the women can have, because the market price for some fishes wasn't good. So if you know that the price of fish in market A is better, then you can go there, sell your products, and get profit, and then you can invest the profit into a food that will help you reduce anemia. In the third arm is where we introduce Ahuto oven to them. So we have, there were 60 participants in all, 20 in each arm. So in each arm, We have, for example, in this we have 10 from the western, from the central region, 10 from the Volta region, the same thing across board. So in each of the arms, you have participants from the central region and the participant from the Volta region. Because this was a pilot study, there was no interest in having a control arm, because we wanted to look at the feasibility and some challenges, 4 challenges, in case we want to upscale the study. So we had no interest in one, and even calculating sample size, and even having a control arm, because our aim was quite straightforward. And we had quite a modest sample size, which will help us achieve our aim. So this was a result for arm 3, the arm that utilized the auto-oven. Generally, there was some reduction from baseline in PM 2.5, carbon monoxide, I think across during the fish smoking period and the NAMF and overall. So what we did here was that we have an activity diary. We asked women to complete a diary. So from the diary, we were able to identify exposures that were related to fish smoking activities. And then that is the fish smoking period and exposures overall. We could have also had a situation where we had exposures due to non-smoking period, but we didn't do that. But we had exposures due to fish smoking period and total exposure. Generally, we realized a general reduction in the pollutant levels overall, but the reduction was somehow higher in the arm 3. Arm 3 is the arm that utilized the auto-oven. It's very difficult to attribute those to the intervention, right? Because there was a general reduction, and it's very difficult to say that the reduction is due to the auto-oven. And so it's this was a pilot study, and I think we were hoping to continue, but it's never materialized. The WHO has several guidelines in 2006 and 2010. Recently, in 2021, they've come up with a guideline. Because these guidelines, if you look at the pattern, those health-based guideline has a single aim, is to help countries achieve a goal. So if you look at 2005 guideline, PM2.5 was 24 hours or 25, but in 2021, there was a reduction to 15 and so forth. So you see a reduction in 2021 guideline compared to 2020. And these were based on evidence, because the evidence suggests that it's possible to reduce household pollutants, and based on the evidence, they came up with a new guideline. So these guidelines are only to protect population, solely for health protection. And one way to achieve this is for them to help countries program to do this. These recommendations are targeted at fuel and technology. Because if you talk about household pollution, there are 2 things that come to mind. The type of technology you are using, cooking device, the type of fuel you are using, right? So these guidelines aim to promote the use of efficient fuel and technology, such that it will achieve its goal of protecting the human population. Because these are guidelines, they only advise countries. Recently, I think was it last year, they designed a program to train medical doctors on the health effects of air pollution. The idea, so they are using different strategies to promote the achievement of a healthy population in different countries. So those recommendations is to promote good practices that will help achieve, reduce emissions to achieve good population health. Now, so far as household pollution is concerned, there are three terms that we always will encounter: clean technology, or clean fuel, transition fuel, and then polluting fuel. And these are things that we see on a daily basis in household. Now the question is, we have different devices that are being put on the market. And so some of these devices we claim are efficient technology, efficient cooking devices, but some of them keep on using the old polluting fuel, wood. So if wood is bad, why do people keep on putting technology on the market and encouraging people to continue to use wood? So the question is biomass fuel always polluting? Is biomass fuel always polluting? Because we have agencies always putting devices on the market, and these devices, we know some of them utilizes wood. If wood is that bad, then why are we putting technology on the market? Are we not promoting pollution of the environment? Is biomass fuel always polluting? That's a question. And it depends. It depends on the type of fuel, the type of technology you are using the biomass fuel for. Now, we'll halt a bit. We'll come back to that question. We'll answer that question later. The WHO guidelines seeks to achieve one thing, is to meet people achieve clean for health. But however, we know that in our kitchen environment, our home environment is a very complex environment. You go to some household, you find different types of fuel. And most household, no single household, except from few, can say they use LPG throughout. You go to most households, they use LPG, wood fuel. You use a clean fuel and a bad fuel. And this is something you can't take away from households. Again, as the first speaker said, it's a question of affordability. And the use of fuel is more of a behavior. Some people use household fuel because that's what they came to know. Their grandmother has been using it. Nothing has ever happened. Their great-grandmother has been using it. So the use of polluting fuel is more of a cultural issue. You can't just introduce an intervention and expect people to follow you. Yes, let's abandon everything and pick LPG. It's a behavioral issue. It's very difficult to discourage people from using household fuel. So you go to most households, they do stacking. They use several fuels parallel. There are certain foods that they use wood. They prefer using wood for a very good reason, charcoal or LPG. And it's so difficult for interventions to succeed. I think in a review that was carried out, published in 2021, it appeared that none of the interventions has been successful in reducing household pollution to a level recommended by WHO. Why? Because most households, they are not able to sustain the technology. They eventually will resort to fuel cycle. Right, so it's very difficult if you have to move people entirely from the use of wood fuel or charcoal. It's a very, very challenging scenario. So far as people are using other fuel in parallel, there's no way you go into a household, you measure exposure levels and get levels below the WHO guideline. There's no way. They'll use it a day, they use different types of fuel. You go there, you measure, you realize that fuel, the PM2.5 levels are still high. And you'll be wondering, what am I doing here? Because it's people behavior you are dealing with. And you can't change them with just your technology or your message. It's sometimes very difficult. So the WHO is looking forward to believes in transition, where we help people move from polluting fuel into a transitional stage where they use the mix of it,